It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app. It's Thursday. It's a coordinator Thursday. That's what it is. What do they say? It's competition Wednesday, finish Friday, all about the ball Thursday.
Yes.
We're all about the ball today, except for at the end of the show when we give way to a puck because we got Capitals hockey tonight here on the Team 980. So we are off and running. We got a little bit extra that we got to get in today because the show only goes till 6:45. Anthony, I'm not going to lie. I'm most excited for 4:45 today because earlier this week, Darris Dameron, the producer extraordinaire of Grant and Danny across the hall, came in very concerned about you and Madden, like the video game, and there's a whole discussion to apparently get into here. So I'm excited for that at 4:45. It seems rather serious. Darris cares about it a lot, and you know I'm here to help Darris out. I want to let him get this off his chest, even though it is directed at you. But I think you are prepared to handle yourself.
Correct. I went home yesterday. I took the time to gather my talking points because I don't like what Darris thinks, or says about me. And I don't really like what, people in the chat say about me either. So I'm here to defend my honor.
Excellent. And with a fresh haircut.
Ooh, you see it?
I did.
Hey, look, I saw you get one. I was like, let me get one.
Yesterday, it really looked fresh. Today, it looks just like, it's still better than it was, but like I didn't use any product or blow dry my hair. I was lazy because I eventually was like, I'm just going to go get needles put in my legs. So that was fun at PT today.
That probably hurt.
You'd been doing a bunch of physical therapy. You ever get dry needled?
No, I just get heat and ice.
Got a dry needle game, bro. It's next level.
Yeah, I think that scares me a little bit.
Yeah, I have four needles in my shin, a couple more in my hip, we'll call it.
I maybe should have gotten it in my back, but I just, took the heat. Literally.
You still have to take the cold, too, in the form of an ice bath.
Well, I mainly put the cold on my neck.
All right, well, we'll get that. Here's what we got on the show today. Kliff and Joe Whitt Jr. talked, obviously, as they do every Thursday. So we will let you hear throughout the show what they had to say. And the headline to me coming out of the coordinator press conferences is in the form of something that Joe Whitt said that I thought was very telling. I thought that was very interesting. And it started in his opening remarks as he took to the podium today.
Allow 4 plays. Get football plays, and you're going to get a penalty here and there. They're going to get their plays in the run game, but we can't give them anything. And if we don't give up those 4 individual plays, we win that game. And so that's that. And I'll take responsibility for that because they shouldn't make those mistakes. Defenses that we know, and we didn't get it executed. So we're, like I said, we're working to make sure we minimize those mistakes moving forward. But we can't keep coming up here. I can't keep coming up here saying the same thing. Got to get it corrected. We have a good football team, and we have to do what we need to do. From an injury standpoint, we lost a lot of guys, and so, but like I like to say, injury is just like blocking, tackling, running. All right, it's part of NFL football. So we got to give these other guys opportunities. Sometimes you get your opportunity, you become a star. So I'm excited to see the guys that are going to come in and play. And we always talked about rolling with a deep crew, so they got to come in and be ready to rock and roll. So with that, I'll take any of your questions.
So that's how Joe Whitt Jr. opened today. 4 plays that cost the game. I don't think he's ever specifically in this press conference laid out the exact 4 plays, but it's a lot of the miscommunication stuff that happened. There's 2 coverage busts where that involved Frankie Louvu and another defensive back, and a defensive back. I believe one is Percy Butler. I believe one was BSJ, but it might have been. Actually, I think it was one of the other corners. But it was Noah. Both follow the same guy and leave someone else open. So I'm guessing those are 2. There is, if I had to guess, the play where St. Juice trails Rashad Bateman because he gets picked and there's no communication on that. There's a technique thing where Benjamin could probably stay a little more square, but also like you can't let your guy get picked like that if you're guarding Mark Andrews. Like you've got to, if you're I think it was Jeremy Chin, Bobby Wagner, someone, whoever had Mark Andrews, the guy who ultimately set the pick, like You've got to either communicate, you've got to help your guy out and switch that. Like, you got to have a better plan. And I think it's interesting because Joe is now feeling in a way that you probably don't feel quite as intensely as a position coach what it's like to be a coordinator in the NFL, which is you can have a bunch of really good weeks in a row. You face a team that's awesome. They hand it to you a little bit. And you're like, I thought we had all this stuff figured out. And I think that the thing that you have to realize as a coach is you have to both accept that you're not going to be, that there is no such thing as figuring it out. I think that's the biggest misconception about sports is no one, even LeBron as an NBA player, even Brady as a football player, as a quarterback, those guys never, quote unquote, figured it out. It looks like they did. They get as close as anybody ever does. But part of that is they consistently work. They figure out how to keep solving the problems. Because sports are physically and mentally just an endless string of problems to solve. How do I get around this guy? What decision do I have to make in terms of where I throw the football? What defensive assignment do I have? Do I make the right decisions, and then do I physically execute upon them? Time and time and time and time again. And so as a coach, there's no such thing as figuring it out because every week you play an offense that's a little bit different, that presents different challenges. And you have to try to, and there is no, by the way, solution that's bulletproof. There is no game plan that you go in with that another team can't make an adjustment and figure something out. Or, hey, the game plan was perfect until the guy missed the tackle. Well, that wasn't part of the plan. Now, hey, we had it covered, but that guy's running scotch-free. You get penalties that happen. You have injuries that make that harder to execute. You did something because you knew you had a guy that could handle it. He gets hurt on the second snap of the game, and now we got to figure out a new way to solve that problem because his backup can't do the thing that we were asking the first guy to do. And so I think I find humor in it because I've been doing this a long time. It's probably not funny at all to Joe Whitt, and I'm not laughing. To be very clear, I'm laughing at the general nature of coaching because that's like it's something that everyone does. I'm not laughing specifically at Joe, and I'm not laughing at Joe at all. It's just to hear a coordinator get up and be like, well, I can't keep up getting up here and saying the same things, and I've got to figure it out because they shouldn't be doing this. When we didn't have that problem the last couple of weeks. It's like, yeah, because you're coaching a bunch of humans who are young men that are trying to figure stuff out in real time and against the best athletes in the world. And you're not going to hit about 1,000 on that. But here's the important part. Here's why it's you don't need to laugh at Joe Whitt. You don't need to be mad at Joe Whitt. You don't need to be sad about anything Joe Whitt said. Is the mentality that Joe Whitt has is how you be right way more often than you're wrong. That while you have to somewhere deep down inside accept the fact that there is no such thing as figuring it out and there is no such thing as perfection, you have to constantly pursue it because the hope is that you do as good of a job as you can. And the only way to do that is to pursue figuring it out, is to make those changes each and every week. How can I either design a better scheme and use my players and put them in better positions, or do I communicate to them what I need to see happen what they need to do in a way that allows them to execute better. And we've seen huge strides for certain players, including a highlight St. Juice, because he and I, as in Benjamin and I, talked about this in our preseason interview, where he talked about last year, I'd be responsible for the go, the dig, the comeback, the in, the out. And if anytime my guy caught the ball anywhere near me, even if it wasn't really my fault, I would get yelled at. And this year, it's like, just don't get beat deep. For instance, sometimes it's don't give up the comeback. Sometimes it's don't give up the in. Sometimes it's don't give up the out. But depending on the coverage, they're much clearer. And if, for whatever reason, you give up the thing that you were told, don't worry about that. Either the guy whose fault it is going to give up or get yelled at or told like, hey, that needs to be better. Or if it's the thing that is just the weakness in the defense because no defense is perfect. Otherwise, every single coordinator would call that play every single time. If you give up the honey hole shot in cover two, and you had good depth and a quarterback just made an absolutely insane throw, maybe it's your safety's a little bit late, but the ball winds up going over your head, but you were where you're supposed to be because you're supposed to play at 8 yards or whatever, based off down distance and whatever version of cover two, like you're in your spot. You hustle back and get the depth when the ball is thrown, but you just get beat by a good throw. Then you go, okay. Now you give up a deep out in cover three where you're responsible for that. Well, now we got a problem. Like, these are the kinds of things that are really important, and Joe is trying to figure out how to make it week over week that instead of 75% of the time we're right, we're 80. Instead of 80% of the time we're right, we're 85. And you're always trying to pursue that 100, knowing that you're never truly going to get there. And I love Joe's approach to that. I love Joe's ownership of that. I think it's a way to both publicly take accountability that if fans hear this, they're like, okay, these guys are trying, while not throwing players under the bus. But the reality is, too, on the back end of this, if he keeps trying stuff and they give more information and some guys maybe get it and other guys continue to not, eventually it is a reflection of the players. And that's the last part is they are understaffed in the defensive backfield. Like, obviously, Benjamin, we've talked about a lot this week. He's a guy that's not a premier number 1 corner by any stretch. I don't know that he's a premier number 2 corner. He's a fine 2 if you have a really good one. They don't. So he's asked to guard types of players and do things that you would rather not put him in position to do. Noah Igbenogany, great rotational piece. Not a guy you want to be your starting slot. That's why he's a former first-round pick who's become a journeyman around the league. Sainer Still's a rookie, and he's grown week over week in a tremendous way, but he's a rookie now playing out of position because they don't have anybody else that can play out there. You know, Kwan's got his strengths. He's still young at the position. Jeremy Chin's got his strengths, but he's also got his weaknesses. And so they're trying to find solutions week over week. And against a team like Baltimore, there just aren't a lot of good ones, even if your defense is awesome. And so what's going to be interesting is against Carolina, a team that does present some interesting stuff offensively, can you get it corrected to a serviceable level? That's a reflection of Joe Whitt's coaching far more than the 4 plays that you give up the game against the Ravens, because the Ravens can cause that kind of chaos because they do so many things well, and the job is so hard to do, snap in, snap out, against players that are that good, a scheme that is that good, and an operator in Lamar Jackson who is as good as anybody in the NFL. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Hear a little bit more from Whitt and Kliff Kingsbury next, and then coming up at 4:30, game of the night last night was on the hardwood. We'll break it down. 5 o'clock today, our pal Dan Pizzuta is with us. We're locked and loaded on a Thursday on the Hoffman Show. Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Interesting stuff from Joe Whitt that we played you a little bit earlier to start the show. Also some interesting stuff from Kliff Kingsbury today. We'll get back to even more of this at 6 o'clock in our Pick 6 at 6. But just scrolling through some of the sound bites here. And there's something I wanted to play for you because I think this was really interesting on a big picture NFL level. And that is how Kliff has continued to evolve. And one, just a fun fact from today. The flea flicker screen that was run this weekend, Kliff is willing to take inspiration from anywhere. And here's where he got that flea flicker screen to Austin Eckler from.
Yep, I got to cite my sources always. It's a Jeff Brom play. He did it at Purdue, and obviously we have David Blau who played for Jeff Brom. So David Blau had brought that one up, and they threw it to a tight end. We ended up sneaking Austin back there, and it ended up working out. The guys executed it perfectly because they brought a pressure, which even made it better. But yeah, that's shout out Jeff Brom for that one.
Shout out Jeff Brom. And then, of course, what do? You build on that because the next play, there was some similarities and some similar motions. They do something completely different.
It just worked out. Like in you have those scenarios in your head where you would sequence it, and then sometimes it hits. But if that screen didn't hit, then yeah, we weren't get to that one. So it just kind of worked out. We had that personnel group we could line up and get rolling again fast, and so it played out in our favor that time.
And so cool. Hey, good planning, good execution, knowing, hey, we could have a big opportunity here, not just for one play, but sequence two. And I think it shows you, the reason I wanted to play that and play the bite I'm about to play for you is because the way Kliff Kingsbury thinks about offense is incredibly detailed. And it has been really fun to watch this year. And I talked in the last segment about how ultimately this game and all sports, but especially football, all of the moving parts, the scripted nature of it, because it's not a free-flowing basketball or soccer or whatever type of game where there's, or even, baseball in its own way is different because there's not really a script. It's like an action. There's a ball, and then they throw it, and dude either hits it or he doesn't, and then everybody reacts off of that. In football, this sounds like, Anthony, hold on, this is an age test. To an extent. If I say George Carlin's baseball and football, does that ring a bell at all to you?
You talking about George Carlin?
Yeah, the comedian. You know that baseball and football old skit about warfare, like football basically being like war and baseball. We just want to go home.
No.
Okay. You should watch that immediately.
Okay.
1. 2, he talks about, we got to have a battle plan, and I feel like this segment's turning into that, but ultimately, like, you have to have your plan. You have to have your, it's schemed up, and everyone's got to execute their jobs, and you're trying to create space and vacate here and fill in there, and there's a physical nature to it, and all these things, and it's problem solving. It is incredibly violent problem solving, and so understanding what problems you're trying to solve and then what tools are in your toolbox to solve them, and watching Kliff do this week over week over week over week has been really, really fun. And one of the ways that he was really heavily criticized coming into the year was he did not use a lot of pre-snap motion. And this year, he has used a lot more of pre-snap motion. And specifically, there's been a rise in the NFL of at-snap motion, a.k.a. as the ball is snapped, there is still a guy in motion. So instead of, I got my wide receiver lined up to the left, he runs to the right, resets, now set hut. It's my tight end's running across the formation, and as he crosses the tackle, set hut, and then that dude turns up field and rams into somebody. Or, it's Tyreek Hill, obviously, last year. Quick, short motion, let me change my split, and let me get upfield and kind of get a running head start. So what does Kliff think of that increase of at-snap motion around the NFL?
I think the game is just cyclical, and people see certain teams doing it that have had a level of success, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, we could add that, and we could do it this way and add this wrinkle. And so I think that's what you're going through, and I'm sure it'll transition to something else here in a few months. But yeah, it's definitely picked up. I see a lot of people doing it, and I know it's a challenge for defenses. I think you talk to those guys, that's probably where everybody's kind of getting that information, is their DCs are like, hey, this is a tough look here, or that's a tough look there.
And they've used it. They've used like the orbit motions with Zacchaeus, for instance. And it's funny how they use some of that stuff, right? Because just off the top of my head in the Baltimore game alone, they use it one time to get Zaccheaus moving on a screen where they throw him the ball. So, hey, we are going to throw you the football. The 50-yard run in the Cleveland game from Eckler. They use it to clear the side. So Zaccheaus starts on the right, motions into the backfield, circles around, and winds up going left, and then they run to the right because now we've pulled the defender that's in man-to-man coverage on Zaccheaus away from where the play is going. Zaccheaus then hustles his behind off 50, 60 yards down the field to recover Eckler's fumble from that I'm out of the play by design position, which is just ridiculous. But you do that. Sometimes you run it, and then you can use that guy as a blocker. They've done that a couple times this year where they run a guy across. And so using that at-snap motion, something that wasn't necessarily in Kliff's toolbox, has been great. But he also knows how to operate without it because sometimes – hey, we're going to use motion to try to pull a guy here, and Kliff will just do it based off formation. We're going to line up in a way that you have to match us, and now you're as equally out of the way as if we had tried to run you all over the field, but our quarterback gets a cleaner picture. And so it's been really fun to watch Kliff problem solve this year, and it's something that I think he has adapted and taken a lot of these West Coast, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay things, and also obviously he's a watcher of the college game, and some of these big looping orbit motions and things like that are coming out of the college game. Or you take a play that your assistant quarterbacks coach ran in college 10 years ago, and hey, this is one I remember that we liked. This is a good way that we could do something, and you're getting to see why I think so many people had so many good things to say about Kliff Kingsbury, despite the fact that the resume went, wait a second, this is the guy that Dan Quinn's bringing in? He's got all this connections to the Kyle Shanahan tree, and you're going Kliff Kingsbury? Turns out that was a very good decision. And the other piece, and this is not schematic, it's not anything other than character and competitiveness. Kliff is so competitive as a play caller, and I talked about this during 1st and 10 earlier in the week. He refuses to let this offense get in a rut. And so even, for instance, when they struggled to get their run game going against Baltimore this week.
Yeah, they've been really stout against the run. We would have liked to run it better. There's no doubt. We needed to run it better to win that game and possess the ball more than we did. We had our defense out there a lot because we weren't able to establish the run game. But just a combination of things. I got to call a better game. Brian's a tremendous player, but they're also very good at stopping the run, as you can tell through their first 6 games. But we got to be better establishing that, and that's kind of set up everything else for us throughout the season, and we weren't able to do that last week.
And so even though they couldn't do it, and because Baltimore was great at it, and you kind of realize, like, I'm not going to be able to run my head into a wall, I got to find ways to get us moving, he did. The compete level for him and the amount of things, whether it's a flea flicker screen or whatever else that he's willing to try, is endless. And that is something that not only has helped this offense and helped Jaden and really gotten them on the scoreboard with frequency, but matches Dan Quinn's approach to football. And frankly, Adam Peters' vision for the franchise. Competitiveness everywhere. It shows up in play calling in a way that I never can remember saying about a play caller in the 10-plus years that I've been covering the NFL at this point. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And when we get back, an absolute game for the ages last night. We've got controversy coming up at 4:45. I just gonna sit back. A Madden adjacent fight, but also one that's really. I don't get to sit back, Anthony. We need. I don't know what they're called. Whatever, like the kind of wig that George Washington wore that like judges wear.
Oh yeah.
I need that and a gavel and a order. I get to decide who's right in the dispute between. It's Craig's Court. Ooh, that's a segment idea.
I'm looking forward to it.
So Craig's Court coming up. It's open for session. Coming up in 4:45. I feel like Linnell wants to take every problem he has, and he probably wants to come to my courtroom. Doesn't realize he's just going to get slapped down a lot. Anyway, last night, WNBA Finals Game 3. And I tweeted out at the end of this one, Anthony, Game 1, meet Game 3, handshake, games that the road team had no business winning. That was absolutely a wild game, but it is an especially wild game considering in Game 1 of this series, the Minnesota Lynx were down 18 on the road in New York. They come back, in part, are able to win the game thanks to a ridiculously silly foul by Sabrina Ionescu on Courtney Williams for a 4-point play in the final seconds of the game, which is the first time Minnesota led in the whole thing. Then ultimately they win in overtime. Well, last night, Minnesota, who had started horrendously in both games this series before mounting comebacks, started on fire at home. They're up 28-18 after the first quarter. But a slow second quarter, they only have an 8-point lead at half. New York comes out in the third, comes back. But in a game where at one point New York trailed by 15 points, Breanna Stewart was awesome, but slows her scoring in the fourth quarter. And Sabrina Ionescu, who had been absolutely terrible all night long from the field. She had like 2 points, hits 2 of, I don't know, the best shots in WNBA history, arguably. Like huge monster 3, and then another one from the logo to seal it. In what is, Ryan Ruocco, by the way, what a call in the moment to go the biggest shot in New York Liberty history. And now all of a sudden they're on the verge of winning a championship. First of all, cold shot. I'm not like the world's biggest Sabrina Ionescu fan. Respect. What are you going to say? That is a ridiculously icy shot. And 2, oh my God, how did they win that game? They were down 15. Well done for a team whose toughness was definitely under question after that Game 1 loss.
To be honest, Craig, I think the Lynx comeback win in Game 1 was a little bit more surprising than,
of course, New York's the number 1 seed. They're at home.
I wouldn't even attribute it to that. It's more so the Liberty actually had a 15-point lead with 5 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter.
That's a fair point.
As opposed to the Lynx getting out.
No doubt,
Yeah.
Minnesota's comeback is better.
Yeah.
But this one could be could be the one that changes the series if they can win one of the next 2 games, which they can either win on the road tomorrow night or they can win at home on Sunday.
Yeah. The game was crazy. The shot by Sabrina, man, from the logo, when you had 10 seconds to get a better shot, get downhill to do anything, and that's what you settle for. I think that is the greatness that, again, like people are seemingly missing when they don't tune into these games. These are the shots we see. Steph Curry, LeBron James, Devin Booker, Damian Lillard. We see these guys make those shots. Guess what? The women are also doing these shots. Making these shots, and it's just awesome to see. I think this is a game the Lynx will definitely look back on and say we should have had this one down the stretch.
No doubt.
They had some calls though that did not go their way though, Craig.
They did not. Unfortunately, this is a part of sports. Is like you're gonna have calls that don't go your way. They had a couple, and frankly, in the game that they won in Game 1, it was crazy. New York has definitely gotten a couple of key things to go their way in this series, and there's one. It's kind of funny because I actually thought it was good defense too, but there's one in the fourth quarter. Initially, and they're doing the slow-mo replay as they go to break. And we've all seen this, right? Slow-mo replay, you're going to break. The color commentator, like Mark Jackson used to be the king of this. And then at the end, he hit the, mama, there goes that man again, right? Like when he narrate the replay, and you all of a sudden see on this slow-mo replay that wasn't Brianna Stewart's 5th block of the game.
Nope.
That was a missed foul call. And Rebecca Lobo just goes, ooh, and the high five. Go to commercial break. That's not going to help any of the ESPN has it in the bag for the Liberty takes. They definitely had a couple. And Minnesota coach Cheryl Reeve, after the game, to her credit, was like, I don't think my star, Nafisa Collier, gets the same whistle as their star.
None.
And I respect that, because what she's trying to do is work the refs for the next one. And that's the right thing to do. But the refs also need to get it right. But I think the bigger thing in this game that they couldn't control was not obviously a couple of shots, Courtney Williams, you're always living on a knife's edge with her, where she's really aggressive and it can bail you out of some spots, but it also gets you some shots that go up and you're like, yeah, I think we could have gotten a better look there, Court. So, but she's been way more good than bad in this series by a lot. So there's a couple of stretches of play for sure. But the game changed tremendously when Alana Smith went out. Alana Smith in this game, and plus minus in single game is always a little funny.
Yeah.
But this is a big number. Okay. No one else in the entire game. I guess Kayla Thornton wound up being a plus 12 for New York in 12 minutes coming off the bench. So that was a huge, huge stretch that she gave. No one else in the game either way was double digits plus minus, except for Alana Smith, who is a plus 20, and then our old friend Maisha Hines-Allen, unfortunately, is a minus 19. Because now all of a sudden she's stuck playing center, and that's really not where she's best, especially against Jonquel Jones. That is a matchup that they don't want Maisha Hines-Allen to have to play, and she got stuck there. And Alana Smith, not a huge stat night. She's got 2 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, but she's a threat from the perimeter. She does move the ball well with those 4 assists for a big in just 20 minutes. She's a rebounder, and her size on Jonquel Jones, gets everybody where they need to be. And all of a sudden, Nafisa Collier's got a lot bigger load to try to manage. Stewie has found ways in this series to get her shot off. Last night, she's only 9 for 20, but she goes to the free throw line 10 times. Just super aggressive, 30 points, 11 rebounds. They have this amazing clip of her on the bench saying, "We are not losing this bleeping game." And sure enough, at the end, they do enough, and Sabrina's in a position to hit the shot. And you got to give her a ton of credit, because there's a lot of great players in this league, a lot of great shooters. I don't know how many I would take over Ionescu in a big spot, because her self-belief is so extraordinarily high, whether it's true or not, and it becomes self-fulfilling to an extent. She believes that she was made for those moments, and thus she is not afraid to take them. And when she had 3 shots late in this game, one went in, the first one went in, the second one went in and out, and she was laughing. And she's just like, what are you going to do? The ball was literally halfway in. And the next one, logo, bang, bang, night, night. And all of a sudden, Minnesota is going to have to fend off elimination to force a Game 5 in New York. Or New York's finally, in their 7th attempt in the finals, going to win a WNBA championship.
Yeah, and I think the good thing about Sabrina also, and it's worked well for her all season long, just her, taking her time running the offense. She didn't shoot almost damn
She did other stuff.
Entire, first quarter. But she still had an impact on the game. And that just speaks to, the depth of this team. Stewie, she's going to go out there. She's going to get her 30-piece. But Sabrina, when the lights are the brightest and they need, a shot or a bucket, they can turn to her. So super shout out to the Liberty. Hopefully they do end up getting it done. I'm rooting for the Lynx still. I think they're going to have something to say in Game 4 before they eventually, if necessary, have to head back to New York.
I would love a game. Give me a Game 5. I would like that. I'm a Lynx fan in this one. I would like them to win. But just give me a Game 5 at the very least, because
when
it's
would Game 5 be?
Sunday, unfortunately.
Ain't no way.
Yeah.
2-2-2?
Huh?
So they played yesterday. They're going to play Friday,
Bro,
and then they're gonna play
They're
again
getting
on
1.5 million viewers on ESPN on Sunday. Like, yeah, it's going to be 2 million people that watch that Game 5 in the middle of an NFL Sunday, especially this NFL Sunday, by the way, because there's a lot of crap games.
Yeah. there are.
Championship on the line, like, I'm going to be ticked because I don't know. I might have to get to Northwest Stadium at like 2 o'clock so I make sure I can sit down and watch that one.
Mm-hmm.
And be like, oh, look, Jaden scored again. All right, back to the fourth quarter. All right, it's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And when we get back, we have our first ever edition of Craig's Court. I have to rule on a complaint against Anthony Haney. Bum, bum, bum. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app and streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. We see Darris Dameron, the producer of Grant and Danny, who has abandoned his show host. It's clear he's got it, or whoever's over there.
Yeah, he's got it.
He's good.
I might get in trouble. We'll see. We'll find out.
Yeah,
it'll be a fun game.
But we're opening. We just decided we're going to call this segment Craig's Court, and I'm rule with an iron fist. So you came in here the other day and you're like, I'm a little scared to play your producer. This is the day Anthony was out on Monday in Madden. You guys have a league that has been going for quite a while now.
Yeah. Yep.
And it is very specifically a sim league. So, Darris, can you explain first what a sim league is and then what your complaint is before the court here against one Anthony Haney?
So a simulation Madden league is basically it's a belief that you're bringing together a group of people in a Madden franchise where 32 people play online together, and the point of it is to simulate what you see on Sundays, to simulate real life football, as opposed to if you're just out there in the wild playing Madden online, playing ranked games or playing Madden Ultimate Team or any of those other goofy modes. Anything goes. People are just calling the same play over and over again. They're only running the plays that work the best because they exploit the computer AI and things like that. So Simulation Madden League has rules in place to be able to kind of protect
quality
us
control.
from that. Yeah, it's quality control. It's a safe space for people who appreciate football in a different way and want to emulate that in the video game version of football.
Okay, so that brings Anthony back into the picture. What has young Anthony Haney done in this league that has upset you?
So I would say, one, I think Anthony has become the league villain, which I think is hilarious. Ooh. That, of course, one of my coworkers I bring in is now the villain of the league. It kind of started last year. He entered the league midway through last year.
Okay.
And he got in a lot of heated debates and battles with one of our division rivals, because we were in the same division last Madden as well.
Okay.
About his gameplay. And what a lot of people do is a lot of people call him corny. They say that he's cheesy. These are words that you use to describe somebody who kind of is going against the grain of what a Sim Madden league is about.
So the play calling, you might say it's like a college offense. If you wanted to perhaps use a topical reference from a few weeks ago.
Sure. Cam Taylor-Britt would not be very impressed by Anthony's offense, I would say.
Okay. Anthony, would you like to explain yourself, defend yourself against these charges?
So, Craig, I understand the Sim League. I understand what it is. And I feel like what I do a decent job of emulating what we see on Sundays. Last year, the Commanders, Sam Howell, Eric Bieniemy, they had a pass-heavy offense. I emulated that same – Craig, it was so – Sam Howell was my quarterback. I emulated that offense. So people get mad that I throw the ball literally every play. Yes, and I do audible at the line of scrimmage. I think that's where a lot of people get upset because I am, taking my time to actually call the play as opposed to running the play as is.
Now, he says audible at the line of scrimmage. I think he more so means hot routing, where you come to the line of scrimmage and you're changing the route of everybody that's on the field. I mean, you're a football guy.
Yeah, so you're no longer running a play. You've created your own play.
Essentially, he's creating a play on the fly, and that is one tedious because you as a defender have to just sit there and watch his quarterback do this for 35 of the 40 seconds on the play clock. But it's also, I think, in the Sim Madden League community, it also feels kind of like a cop-out. It feels like you're finding ways to abuse the AI in ways where it's clear that EA as a company is not the greatest when it comes to developing this Madden football game in the way that it's supposed to emulate what we see on Sundays. And I feel like some of that stuff that he does kind of takes advantage of some of those faults that EA has.
And you don't think that Anthony is a young Peyton Manning in the making that can actually draw plays in the dirt at the line of scrimmage, seemingly in the 35 of seconds of the play clock.
I think he's influenced by his years of playing online ranked games. I know whenever he puts his stream up, his stream title is always taking money, which indicates to me that he plays for money. At some point in his life. And I think when you play for money, I think all bets are off the table. You
Right.
just do whatever you need to do to get
Can
the
I
W.
defend myself real quick?
You've been supposed to be doing that the whole time, Anthony. Now's a good
first of
start.
all-
Your
first of all-
defense so far is I emulated Eric Bieniemy.
So first of all,
That's not a great defense.
I don't play that many online. The games I play are against my friends, and usually like we do play for like money here and there just to make it competitive. But literally, I have a chat where it's just 3 people in the chat. We play each other all year round. It's just us 3.
So you've never just like randomly played a bunch of online
No,
ranked
I don't have
games.
players
You don't have
club.
like
I don't have a players lounge thingy, players club,
Okay.
whatever that stuff is. I literally play 3 people, and then if I go to India, I'll play Zaire. I don't play that many people.
Okay, I respect that.
So when I found out you played Madden, you were good. You know what I wanted to do? Play you.
Just remember though, I never said that I was good.
Oh,
That's not something I ever do. I'm not a gloater. I'm not one of those guys that goes around saying, "Oh yeah, I'm good." And I won,
I'll
I
ask
won
you,
the Super Bowl.
Are you good and you just don't say it, or are you actually like you're like okay?
I am. Well, for one, yeah, I'm humble, so I'm not gonna be one to do that goes around saying I'm the best, because I feel like when I do that, I feel like there's a higher power that's gonna humble me. So I call them the Madden gods. I think the Madden gods will humble you. I think I'm a decent. I think I'm pretty more than decent.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm regularly competitive in my league. I'm always making the playoffs.
Hey, that's good.
I've won a couple of Super Bowls over the 50. We're now 57 seasons in since Madden 16. Yeah, since Madden 16.
Okay,
I've been running this league since Madden 16, and we're 57 seasons in.
Okay, so it's like 5 seasons a calendar year. That's not.
Yeah,
That's not heinous.
yeah. We average about 6 or 7 seasons a year.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Math has never been my strong suit. So Anthony, as we go near final, final arguments here, so I can make a ruling. Do you have any final defenses on either any of the facts of the case or justification that actually it's okay that I do these things? That like what really I think what we need to the loophole we need to close here, the loop we need to close is, do you do the hot route bit? Because running a hurry up offense, I think is fair as long as you.
I stopped running in hurry up offense because people were like, "Why is he only run hurry up offense?" So guess what I do? I don't run it anymore. Anytime someone's come to the chat with a complaint, I've tried my best to do away with. They said I ran too many RPOs. I played my last game, didn't run one RPO. Ironically, Darris lost yesterday on an RPO. So it's just like, y'all want to get mad at me for running RPOs, but here goes somebody else running RPO. So I'm not going to use the RPOs anymore. I'm not going to run hurry up offense anymore. And I asked the chat, I said, if you guys need me to not do anything else, let me know.
It's pretty compelling. Darris, final argument goes to you.
To be fair, I want to fact check the RPO part. He did run an RPO, I believe, the final like 4 or 5 plays of our last matchup, which is why people were in my chat, my Twitch stream chat, were upset because they were like, he just keeps doing the same RPO. What the heck? So yeah, when you're repeatedly running the same plays over and over, it gets a little annoying.
I think I've heard enough. That's great. I kind of have a dual ruling. I don't know if it's gonna make either of you happy. I think on some of like the running the same plays thing, I actually rule in Anthony's favor because ultimately, like, if you can't stop it and you know it's coming, like that actually is real football. You know, I've seen coordinators, especially in modern football, coordinators are spamming things more. We find a thing that works, we're going to get back to it. Now, they might dress it up some different ways. You might if you run RPO out of some different formations, different this, different that. Okay, eventually, like, you do need to stop it. However, Anthony, you lose this case because you emulated Eric Bieniemy. The segment didn't need to go beyond 451. If your defense is, I was doing what Eric Bieniemy was doing with Sam Howell, you lose on that alone. That ruling is final.
Slam the gavel.
That kind of hurt my hand. I need an actual gavel. Darris, thank you, sir. You may now return to the show that is paying you to be here.
Sorry, CK. Please don't fire me.
Okay. When we get back, Dan Pizzuta from the 33rd team. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Hour number 2 of 3, kind of. We're off a little bit early today. Capitals hockey tonight here on the radio. So we will bring that to you pregame at 6:45. But same as always for right now, on a Thursday at 5 o'clock, it is time for Not My Beat.
Story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
And on Thursdays, we talk to Dan Pizzuta from the 33rd team. Dan, what's up, dude? How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing well as well. Always great to chat. Always look forward to this. And I have a particular line of questioning that I want to get into you with this week, and something I've been thinking about after watching the Ravens Commanders game back on the phone or on the film on the All 22. And that is how many, like, as you watch the game and watch the Commanders defense against the Ravens offense, how many of the problems they ran into do you think are wholly unique to Baltimore versus like maybe a few other teams could do that to a team like Washington versus things that you are worried about long-term, week in, week out with the Commanders? How do you think about maybe those 3 buckets of issues that the Commanders faced on Sunday?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think when you kind of look at that game specifically, I think it does start with the unique challenges that come with facing Baltimore and the way the Ravens are making teams try to defend them this year. Baltimore is just doing an incredible job of not only getting their heavy personnel in where they're either using, 2 backs or 2 tight ends, and usually that second back is Patrick Ricard, who is, a Kyle Juszczyk-ish kind of guy where he's, one of 6 offensive linemen, tight end, and a fullback at the same time, and can be used in kind of any of those places. So right now, when Baltimore is able to get into those personnel sets, they're making defenses play heavier personnel to match up. They did that last week, or they did that really well 2 weeks ago with when they played Buffalo. They did that a bit last week against Cincinnati, and then this past week against Washington. Like, as you know, Washington has been a nickel defense. They've run nickel about 90% of the times heading into that game. And then they were in base personnel with only 4 defensive backs, 3 linebackers, 25% of snaps against Baltimore. And that's just putting Washington in a place where they're not used to. And there's really not a better option, kind of as we talked about last week heading into this game. There's really no good way to try to defend Baltimore. Either you're putting all your resources into stopping Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson is going to go off like he did a little bit, or you're not putting enough resources into stopping the run game and you have Lamar and Derrick Henry kind of running all over. So Baltimore is, I think, this just really unique place right now where they're putting defenses in spots where they're just not used to defending right now. And then you kind of add in some of the, talent deficiencies that Washington has otherwise, and then that just kind of builds on top of each other a little bit.
Dan Pizzuta, 33rd team, with us here on the Hoffman Show. So if we just to kind of round out the Baltimore bucket, like, how many defenses in the entire league do you feel confident going into a week that could hold the Ravens under 30 points?
And that's a great question. I really don't know, because they're so specific.
Like, to me, it's kind of the Chiefs, and I'd have to really hard think about someone else, because, like, in order to do that, you also need to be able to possess the ball on offense. So, like, you need both, and in part, that's really hard to possess the ball on offense, too, to kind of shorten down the game, because the Ravens are so freaking good against the run. So, like, to me, they are so well built. And I think the farther and farther I got into the game tape, and the farther and farther away I got from the emotions of, like, dang, they were close, or whatever else you felt during the game, the more I was like, that is probably the best team in football, and Washington kind of went toe-to-toe with them. And that's not to say that Washington's, like, secretly the second best team, and I'm not saying that by any stretch, and this defense is actually good. I just eventually got to the point where I was like, man, dang, the Ravens are good. Hat tip, we're going to move on and see what happens moving forward.
Yeah, I think that should probably be the takeaway for Washington, because of how close they were able to. That was not a game where they looked overmatched. in spots. Like, I think, Baltimore did have a fairly good hold on that game, like throughout the time they were playing, which, is something. But, again, Washington, like you said, did not completely look out of their league when matching up, which for what we were kind of looking at Washington coming into the season, if you had kind of said that by week 6, they'd be matching up with one of the best teams and just kind of, at least even hanging in the game, I think that is definitely a positive to take away from that.
So then we get to the what actually does concern you moving forward part of this. What things, even this weekend against Carolina, do you look at with this Washington defense after seeing how they held up and didn't against Baltimore, where you're like, they have to find either some new guys to do some stuff or they need to find a better way schematically to cover for some of the issues that they're having?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. Right, where there's just, I think the talent deficiency is definitely coming in and creeping in a little bit, and you're kind of seeing it more as, when Manuel Forbes is a healthy scratch, that's, first of all, not good as being a first round pick, but second of all, there's really not enough depth in the secondary to make him being a healthy scratch look good also. So there are things like that. I think, when you're looking at some of the defensive line, what's happening, and now, you have more injuries there. I think that's going to, be a factor that continues to hold up. So, I think they are a team that if, there is something on defense right now where there might be, a player out there, if they can, make a move, I would be open for kind of being a little bit more aggressive than they might have been thinking about going into the season, because when you have a great quarterback on a rookie deal and you're in year 1 of that rookie deal, that's the time where you really got to be, kind of taking advantage of what you can and taking advantage of having that basically no money on the cap right now for a plus quarterback play. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do make a move. I don't know how big of a splash it's going to be, because I don't know if anyone is going to be available in that way, but I would not be surprised if they do look into it a bit, because I think that's just a thing, especially at the beginning of the season. We kind of always knew the talent wasn't completely there. So when you look at going into what they're going to be doing, Carolina's been running the ball really well, and that is a bit of a concern. I think if you're kind of looking into how they match up a little bit, and they've been passing a little better with Andy Dalton. I think the first 2 games were, I think, a little unrealistic in what's going to sustain over the year, but the way they're running the ball, I think, is going to potentially be a concern for Washington. That's where I think they really need to kind of stiffen up a little bit in how they've played so far this year.
Dan Pizzuta from the 33rd team with us here on the Hoffman Show. And last week we talked quite a bit about Jaden, as you had bumped him up to number 1 in your quarterback rankings as you guys reshuffled how you did the calculations. And he had been the best quarterback in the league through those first 5 weeks. What'd you make of his week 6, where the numbers maybe aren't as prolific? Obviously, they lose, but it seems like the critical acclaim for Jaden Daniels was at an all-time high based off this performance.
Yeah, and in a sense, it was, with lack of a better term, I think it was the most quarterbacky we've seen him, in a sense that he was, standing in the pocket. He was forced to his, I think, quickest time to throw, but he had his most time in the pocket, and it wasn't, a place where he was trying to run. I think he had his lowest scramble rate. So he was finding answers from the pocket, which I think was it definitely, as we keep talking about every week, there is something new to Jaden Daniels' game that makes you feel better about what his development is going to be. And I think that was it against Baltimore, the way he was able to stand strong in the pocket, find answers. And he was, extending plays a little bit, but it wasn't, hey, I don't see anything, I'm going to take off and run. He was, able to kind of get through those progressions. They found a bunch of checkdowns when that was able to kind of move the ball a little bit. And then he was still making, some of his wild, crazy throws that were insane, like the second touchdown to Terry McLaurin was just one of the wildest plays with ball placement and how McLaurin came down with it. So it's just, again, one of those things where little by little, we just see more of these, skills that he is showing on a week-for-week basis. And this was definitely the most where he was just, playing a more drop-back quarterback, which is great because, like, they haven't had to trail a lot so far in the beginning of the season. So you don't know when he has to, just rely on that straight drop-back game, how much that's going to, translate later in the season when you might be playing some better teams, or even if you, get into the playoffs, you have to rely on that a little more. But the fact that he kind of showed that he had that ability, and we're getting to see that more on top of everything else, that is great improvement for what we're seeing from the quarterback position.
Dan Pizzuta, 33rd team with us. As impressive as Jaden was, watching Lamar operate was just wild. What impresses you so much about him? And do you feel like a guy that's already got 2 MVPs is maybe even playing better football than he ever has before?
Yeah, I mean, he absolutely is, I think, and this is kind of what we've wanted to see from Lamar Jackson in terms of how well I think he is just kind of handling everything. And I think that the situation is he's definitely playing better than he was last year, but I think we also have to point out that the situation is so much better too. And I think that is just something that kind of builds on top of each other. Like having Derrick Henry in that backfield, a complete game changer in how defenses are trying to play them. So Lamar gets more stacked boxes this year, and he's throwing more passes against, having 8 men in the box, which then allows the middle of the field to be open more. We're seeing more of that happen. I think Zay Flowers being a better middle of the field receiver against Washington than we've seen the past couple of weeks. So they're, again, opening up a couple things. It took them a couple weeks to get started and really figuring out what everyone's best role is going to be in the way they're playing. But Lamar, his ability to just play from the pocket right now, he's doing all of those quarterbacky things as a straight drop back passer. He still has that rushing ability that he's able to do when they have the read option with Derrick Henry. They completely killed Dallas with that. It's just there's so many different ways that this Baltimore offense can be good, and how Lamar is playing really just kind of centers all of that. I think it's one of my favorite offenses to watch right now.
If that's one of your favorite offenses, how low on the list is Pittsburgh's offense?
Pittsburgh has been okay. They've been interesting, right? And it hasn't been great. But they've been doing some interesting things, and kind of like Justin Fields said, if he had been, playing better, there wouldn't be any question of who the starting quarterback would be. So, like, there weren't as many negatives. Pittsburgh's not on a scale of like a Cleveland offense, which just anytime I have to go in and figure out what is going on with Cleveland, or if I'm watching a defense or anything, and, getting in the quarterback rankings, having to rank Cleveland's quarterback and just kind of watching that
bottom,
game.
put a hazmat suit on, watch like 5 plays, say like nothing's changed, and get the hell out of there, Dan. That is the plan.
Yeah, that's pretty much where Cleveland is. So Pittsburgh is not really close to that. I am interested in a way of what it could potentially look like with Russell Wilson, because the last time we saw Russell Wilson, like it wasn't, Cleveland bad, but it was very stale, where it was a quarterback who used to have this mobility and this ability to extend plays. That just wasn't there. And I think, I'm not sure if another year and coming off a calf injury now is going to make that much better. So I'm a little more hesitant into what the Pittsburgh offense is going to look like going forward than I would have maybe been a little more optimistic of how it could have grown with Justin Fields. Because I think they were doing some decent things. It just wasn't a great, outstanding performance. And some of that was also, personnel related. They don't have the greatest, receivers. So it's tough. It's definitely not the most exciting offense to watch, and I'm not sure how much better it gets, if at all, if they make a quarterback change.
Well, so that's what I was obviously getting at is the decision to go with Wilson over Fields. And I think you can separate the two things, right? Of Justin today was tremendous, answering questions, taking accountability, saying, like, I didn't play good enough. It was not undeniable, obviously, that they are making the wrong decision here. My question for that offense specifically, though, would be, what does it do to your run game? Like, you have these things that are working, that are helping you win games. You're possessing the football, Fields is moving the chains, the numbers are always in your favor because you're always terrified that he's going to pull it on your basic run plays. And that changes how defenses play you. And even though he has not been good as a passer, you've been able to win because you're trying to ultimately offensively just support your defense and hope that a couple times a game they give you great field position and you can take advantage. How much do they, like, let's pretend they get the best version of Russell Wilson that we saw in Denver last year. How does that change their offense, and can they still accomplish that mission?
Yeah, I mean, to start, I don't know how good the best version of Russell Wilson in Denver was last year. Like, that still was not a good quarterback. Even when, I think they had a couple games where they played fairly well, but he still wasn't playing a great quarterback. But like you said, I think there was a lot of Fields kind of getting the most out of some of his scrambles. It wasn't always, that designed run game that I think we've seen kind of take off from some of these other quarterbacks and some of these other better offenses. So if there's a little more, I think it also is going to depend on how much they are going to have an Arthur Smith offense versus a Russell Wilson offense, because I think even when we saw like his later stages in Seattle, every offense eventually kind of becomes a Russell Wilson offense, and that ends up being, a lot of more shotgun, a lot more empty because he likes to do that. But at this stage in his career, he's not as good at doing those things. So he does kind of need some of those guardrails and some of the kind of training wheels type of, under center play action types of things. So if they can get back to that and it's, more of an Arthur Smith offense, I still have kind of trust in the design of the run game a little bit. So I think that can help. But if it's going to be so much based in shotgun and kind of doing the things that Russell Wilson thinks he can still do as a quarterback, that's when I think it really starts to derail the offense. And I think that's kind of how we saw it go off the rails a little bit at the end of his Seattle tenure and then even in Denver.
All right, last but not least, indulgence for our audience here, the struggles of the rest of the NFC East. If you had to, if I tell you got to buy Cowboys stock or Eagles stock and they're currently the same price and you get to cash out at the end of the year, which one do you think you're making more money on?
Oh, man. I'm going into this knowing I'm not going to make money, but I think I would take the Eagles just because there's more talent there that gives them a bigger margin for error, especially on offense. I think Dallas is tough. I think Dak is playing well, but what is on his plate right now to carry this offense, really, like with just CeeDee Lamb as the only real receiving threat, is really hard when the defense just isn't there, and there have been injuries there. So with Philadelphia, at least you have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith back, and that made a huge difference against Cleveland. That's an even uglier game last week if those two aren't playing, and really like the biggest plays there were just throwing it up to A.J. Brown. So there are so many outs in the way they have Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert when he's healthy. He left early in that game. And then Barkley. I think there's just a wider margin for error where someone can take over a game, and I just don't feel like Dallas has that right now. So I think Philly, just because of, the high quality of some of this star power they have, although I don't really believe in that defense either, kind of outside, Jalen Carter taking over a bunch of plays here and there. So, but the talent on offense, I think, just gives Philly a little wider margin for error.
Yeah, no, I would probably agree with you. And that's why I hate Philly more. It's like you are so, like, Dallas is just funny. It's like, we all saw this clown crash coming. And Philly, it's like, yeah. Are you guys really going to do this again? Are you really going to implode like this? Oh, yeah, you are. Wow. And yet, I will say this. Of the teams left on Washington's schedule, they scare me specifically for Washington the most, because they can do like three things that Washington I don't think is very good at, but I don't actually think they're good. They could beat Washington twice, and I'd be like, yeah, okay, fine. Washington's still the better team because it's like it's a matchup thing, but I actually don't think Philly's good at all.
Yeah, that probably explains it quite well. I wouldn't trust any of Washington's corners right now to be matching up with A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith and either in man or zone. So I think, that is going to be a struggle. But in terms of, betting on Philly to be a good team for the rest of the season, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that either.
Yeah, or it'll just be like a 45-40 game. That could be fun. Let's get some points on the board, shall we? NFC East football, just the way God intended. Dan Pizzuta with us here on the Hoffman Show, weekly on Thursdays and writing every single day at the 33rd Team. Dan, always appreciate it, sir, and we will talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Yep, you got it. That is Dan Pizzuta, everybody, with us on the Team 980. Anthony, are we're sticking with the script for right now? We don't have we haven't had any college basketball people.
No.
Dive in.
They
check
have not
in.
hit me back.
Okay, so we are on. We haven't said this on the air yet because it just came through moments ago. But we are on Breaking News Watch. I said. Breaking news. Oh, snap, news is broken. Breaking news. Tony Bennett, the basketball coach at the University of Virginia, has abruptly retired effective immediately. He's 55 years old. Jeff Goodman and Nicole Auerbach both reporting that there's no health issue involved here. He's just stepping down weeks before their season opener. So if we can get someone to call in or we can get actual information on what's happening, because that's all we know right now. It's a developing story. We will break from some of the Commanders talk, et cetera, to give you a lot more info on this. Right now, that's what we know. So stay tuned. As of right now, the plan next is for never read the comments. So we will do that. Our plan for 6 o'clock is the pick six. And then our show ends at 6:45 because we have Capitals hockey tonight. So if we can get someone to come on and talk about this, obviously when news breaks and people are reporting, the last thing they want to do is stop reporting and call a radio show. But if we can pry someone away from their phone in terms of texting and calling sources to call us, we'll do that. But in the meantime, we keep rolling with the football and never read the comments next here on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980. Anthony, by the way, you like how I came in there right as the beat dropped?
I did catch that. I did.
You know, some people can do that. Others can't. Nothing? Nope. Yes? You okay over there? I think you just froze.
I just had a lot go on in that split second. That's why.
Oh, okay. Are you ready for Never Read the Comments? Would you just like me to get on with the show?
Stop
improving. Just do the segment, Craig.
We tried to warn them. They didn't listen.
Yeah!
Every week, the Hoffman Show goes into the belly of the beast.
We read those comments, baby.
Never read the comments.
All right, this is how this works if you're new to the program. We cut up the show every single day, and we put it on YouTube. We stream live on YouTube as well at the Team 980. All this you're watching, if you're watching it later, you could have watched live. Join us at 4 o'clock every single day. You get to see, and if you're listening, then join us on YouTube, and you get to see the very nice sweatshirt that Anthony's wearing, for instance. There you go. Anthony did a double finger point.
Thank you,
because
Craig.
I was addressing the radio audience who can't see you. Thanks for doing a visual thing. The point is that we put the show on the internet and we leave the comments on. A thing that is probably not good for our mental health, but is good for the show. And boy, the things that we'll do for content. So, folks leave comments at Craig Hoffman and at the Team 980. We go through them and we reply to them live on the radio. So, let's get going. We always start with a bit of an amuse-bouche, if you will. One that just kind of gets us in the spirit. And there was a lot of comments on my defense of Benjamin St. Juste earlier this week, Anthony. We titled the segment online, "The Benjamin St. Juste Slander Stops Here." And SlimBone1105 says, "This is great clickbait. I'm going to give you a like because this comment section you created is hilarious. Won't waste a single brain cell listening to your video, though."
Good start.
Thanks.
Good start.
The thing is, it wasn't clickbait. The clickbait suggests that something in the video does not line up with the title. No. I made an actual impassioned defense of some of the ridiculous things people were saying about Benjamin St. Juste, and that's what the title suggested. Yes, people went nuts in the comments. Yes, it created a lot of conversation. But it was not clickbait. Don't you slander us, Slim.
You don't like that too much, huh?
No.
I think that's a good first comment.
I feel like we're in the spirit now.
Yeah.
I feel like we're good to go.
Yep.
As for actual comments, said comment section that he was referencing, Joe Green 40 says, "Thank you. This needed to be said. He's not a number one corner ideally, but it is what it is. Pass rush needs to step up too. Lamar was camping in the pocket all game." The other thing I'd like to say before we get to a comment that is not as kind towards Benjamin, first, I actually like to say two things, Anthony. One, I would like to make a public service announcement about Benjamin St. Juste. And that is that his name is said Benjamin St. Juste, as in a juice box, as in apple juice, orange juice. It is French-Canadian, or Canadian-French, more specifically. There's no T pronounced. This is something that I myself learned more recently than I'd like to admit because I saw the pronunciation card in one of the broadcast booths at the Commanders stadium before a post-game podcast. And I was like, oh, it is said St. Juste. So it is Benjamin St. Juste for everyone who's wondering.
I myself was wondering because I definitely was butchering it. And I just learned that today, Craig. So I will no longer say Benjamin St. Juste.
It's Benjamin St. Juste. Anthony was today years old, and so were many of you. And that's okay. I'm not saying that in a shaming way. I'm just trying to help everybody. If you want to yell about Benjamin St. Juste, you can yell with his proper name. Secondly, Anthony, of the three corners that played on Sunday, I actually think St. Juste played the best of the three. I think Sainer still was probably really close. If you want to grade the pick up and the penalties down, okay, fine. The pick for Sainer still is right place, right time. He absolutely makes the play. He gets credit for it. The penalties on St. Juste, I think, were terrible calls, so I don't count them. But all three guys got picked on in these man-to-man coverage situations. And BSJ did not have mental mistakes, and the other guys did. He just got beat a couple times. And so, again, he is the best they have. The fact that he is the best they have is a reflection of the previous regime who drafted someone to be the number one corner, and that guy is inactive on Sunday. And that's just a reality of the situation. The way you then have to protect these guys, because you know what they are, is with the pass rush. And that is where it failed all three of them on Sunday. And if they don't figure it out against the teams coming up, then other teams are going to be able to do this. And by the way, that starts against Carolina. I think the biggest thing for Carolina is, can the offense go ham on a Panthers defense that is not very good and banged up? So they're not very good to begin with, and then they got worse. And if you do that, then you can just play a bunch of zone against the Panthers and you'll be fine. But that Carolina offensive line is good. They run the football well, and Andy Dalton is the most accurate quarterback against man-to-man defenses in the NFL this season, per Next Gen Stats. Yeah, didn't know that one, did you?
Oh my.
So if you can get up on them, you get up 10-0 early, and then just keep scoring. Then okay, well now they got to pass a bunch. They're in obvious passing situations. Their line becomes less effective. You can heat up some pressures, do some simulated stuff, zone pressures, this, that, the other thing. But I think that you got to make sure that you get up, because if not, and Dalton's out there and they can run the football and all that kind of stuff, then this defense could be in for a longer day. Carolina is not DOA like they were earlier this year when Bryce Young was at quarterback. Okay, now for a comment that is not as kind to Benjamin Saint. What is it, Anthony?
Juice.
Correct. Domo Skywalker 94 consistently brings the bad takes to the comments, but they're entertaining enough. Nah, dude should have stuck to hockey. He did play hockey, something that we talked about in our interview. What was it? I think that one was in last year's interview in the training camp. Anyway, the point is, Domo says, nah, dude should have stuck to hockey because football isn't his skill set. For the 100th time, St. Juice is garbage, Craig. There's no logical reason to defend him. He literally hasn't improved at all. His best season was his rookie season, which he didn't finish every year. It's the exactly the same, exact issues with him. We better address this before the deadline. And I responded, Anthony, with a very simple and straightforward message and basically a meme. Which is, if you don't think he's improved, he being Benjamin St. Juice, and I mean this wholeheartedly, then that tells me everything I need to know about your ability to analyze football, and absolutely nothing about Benjamin St. Juice. So I said to this person, thanks for outing yourself so we know not to pay attention to you anymore. You lose, you get nothing. Good day, sir. Puts on Willy Wonka hat and walks out. Willy Wonka reference?
Yes. I think that was an appropriate response.
Yeah. Now, I had to read it verbatim so I could get the Willy Wonka hat tip in there. But the point is, like, Benjamin St. Juice, there has been some similar stuff, right? He has been beaten by really good players in the past, and he has been beaten by really good players this season. But what's not happening is the coverage busts and these big mental mistakes where he's not remotely close to playing the right leverages, and he's lost out there. St. Juice isn't lost out there. He's getting beat, and getting beat happens. And if you want to watch a guy get beat like a drum a lot this season, go watch the guy that a bunch of you goobers want to trade for. He's on the Carolina Panthers. J.C. Horn. J.C. Horn, also a good player. I'm not telling you J.C. Horn is bad. I am telling you J.C. Horn has given up a lot of touchdowns this year. I know, because in watching my film for Carolina, one of the things I always do in my prep is watch, and this is getting harder because, especially for Carolina, they've given up a lot of these. I watch every single touchdown that a defense has given up. Why? Because I want to know how teams score on them. And the Carolina Panthers, Anthony, are on a historically bad pace from points against. So I had to watch 24 touchdowns get scored against the Carolina Panthers this morning.
Are they on pace as worse as the Commanders' defense was?
From a points per game standpoint, I think so. I mean, I don't know. Was Washington ever last on a historic pace? Because Denver was so bad to start the year.
Denver was ahead of us.
I think Washington was on a historic pace for something. It might have been points. It might have been yards. It might have been both. But currently, the Panthers are giving up 33 a game. The worst ever is 31.
That's bad stuff.
0.8. Yeah, it's like the 83 Colts or something like that. Yeah, it's really, really bad. And a lot of those touchdowns go over the head of J.C. Horn. Why? Because good players get beat by other good players sometimes. And that's football. Getting beat is football. It's a competition. Other dudes get paid too. What can happen is what happened to Frankie Louvu and Noah Igbenogany. I think it was on one play last week, where they both chase after one dude, leaving another dude wide open. Like, you got to figure out who you got in man-to-man situations. We can't double the ball, if you will, and leave the roller to the rim wide open for a dunk. Can't be doing that stuff. And it's the NFL. Figure it out. Yeah, teams are going to put you in conflict. You got to talk through it. You got to have a plan. And that stuff is not happening in Benjamin St-Juste. He has rapidly improved. He is giving up some stuff that he is supposed to be giving up comebacks, but not deep balls. So, yeah, did Jamar Chase get him? Absolutely. Is Jamar Chase going to get pick? Who's the best corner in football, you think, Anthony?
Right now, I'm Pat Surtain.
Would you take if Jamar Chase and Pat Surtain are one-on-one? I'm still throwing to Jamar Chase. I don't love my chances as much as it's against Benjamin St-Juste, but I would trust Jamar Chase.
Yeah. I mean, I think in St-Juste situation, he was one-on-one with the receiver lining up tight. So that means he has opportunity to go everywhere across the field.
Yeah.
One-on-ones are designed for the offensive player to win. So if he's covering the entire field with no help,
it's brutal.
It's tough. So
it's brutal. And that's when your pass rush has to get home. And the pass rush didn't. Lamar was super accurate. And by the way, I think Logan made a good point. We were talking about this morning, previewing Carolina. Like, Xavier Legette's explosive, the Carolina Panthers rookie. Man, you ever done an S run, Anthony?
An S run, what is that?
So an S run, like, the shape of an S, right? So you run like bendy around. So if I were to put like 10 cones in a line, and I tell you to weave in and out of the cones.
Okay, yeah.
I watched Xavier Legette last week run a post quarter that looked like that. So post corner for Zay Flowers or for Jamar Chase or for a top elite route runner, super angular. Boom, let's stem the release. Boom, hard cut inside. And just when that corner flips his hips, dagger, you back to the corner. I guess that would be that was post corner the way I drew it up. It's good to go corner post, whatever. Like, that's a tough route. Xavier Legette's like the route running precision of the receivers that he's going to face the next couple of weeks. Keenan Allen's an interesting one because he's been around forever, but like those are guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. Crazy athlete, really good, gonna be great, not there yet. St-Juste was fantastic against him. So I think that BSJ is going to be fine unless he's got to face the absolute best in the league, in which case it's going to be tough sledding, and that's why they do need a number one corner. None of this is to say that they've actually got corner figured out and everything's great. It's just like, let's have a little bit perspective when we say like, oh, this guy's not an NFL player. This guy's trash. He's garbage. He's not. He's average. And when you're average, half the dudes are better than you, but half the dudes are worse too. And some of y'all don't, I think, pay enough attention to some of the dudes are worse. Like, go check, what's his name? Sorry to single this guy out, but Emerson in Cleveland, their number 2 corner, the season that dude's having, oh my God. He had some good games before. That dude's having a bomb scare.
He's having a real bad season. And yeah. I think, like, building off last season, I think he ended the season well. He had a good rep against Justin Jefferson in the summer. Everybody's talking about the Browns defense, and he has been getting cooked. Wings and things, Craig. That's what we've been seeing in Cleveland. Wings and things.
And things. Now I'm hungry. All right, moving on off the Benjamin St-Juste saga. Next big topic that we covered that got a lot of reaction, Anthony. Not surprisingly, the video titled, the segment titled, "Should the Commanders make trades or pursue trades?" Stunningly, people have opinions on this, Anthony. R. Martin, 987, says, Stockholm Syndrome. People don't want Dan Snyder, but want to keep doing Dan Snyder things. The goal shouldn't be to make the playoffs on an NFC East down year. It should be to be good year in and year out. Get rid of whatever dead weight on the team and pursue free agents at the end of the year when we don't have to compensate with draft picks. This year is an evaluation year. We started hot against bad teams. Let's see how we do against some better teams before committing the future. Jordan, actually, I want to save Jordan's comment for a second because I thought he made a fantastic point that is worth emphasizing here. But on the other side of it, you have Chris Hall, 9027. Completely agree with your take, as in my initial take on this. You never know when you will be in this position again. Being good now is not a guarantee for the future, especially when good organizations and teams are the target for acquisitions from teams that are not as good. Don't mortgage the future, but be aggressive. AP will know what to do, and I do think we'll make a trade before the deadline. And then, last but not least, Daddy's DeChamp, 596. I just read them, kids.
Good gracious.
We need to take advantage of JD5's rookie contract. I'm not saying 1-year rentals, but if you can get good players on a couple-year deals, I'd do it. We got to take advantage of his rookie contract. And, we talked about this morning on Take Command, and Logan kind of, I don't want to say push back, but he purposely was devil's advocating, saying hey, well, these are the things that you have to consider. And we actually very closely agree on the kinds of moves that we would be making if we were Adam Peters. He also made a really good point that, unlike I think a lot of us speculating on this, Adam Peters has a phenomenal understanding of the free agent class that's to come next year. He's got a better idea of what trades could be out there that no one is talking about, because that's his job. And he obviously has some level of a feel of the draft class, and his college scouts have a feel for the draft class and what areas are strong and weak and where they might want to attack, because, I don't know. Is corner, I know Travis Hunter is really good, and he could potentially play corner in the NFL. He could also play receiver. He's probably going to be the number 1 pick. But, okay, outside of Travis Hunter, how's the corner class in the draft? Because if it's really strong, then maybe you don't take as much of a flyer at the deadline. If it's weak, then maybe you do. And so all of these things are factors. But I think to go back to the first point, because it's a good one until you peel back a couple layers of the onion. The Stockholm Syndrome comment from R. Martin, right? It says people don't want Dan Snyder, but want to keep doing Dan Snyder things. The goal shouldn't be to make the playoffs on an NFC East down year. It should be to be good year in and year out. And I agree that the goal should be to be good year in and year out. But you have to look at what's causing you to be good right now. And that thing is the quarterback who's playing at a top 10, if not top 5 level in the sport. You don't waste years like that. And again, you don't mortgage future years, because if you mortgage the 4th year of Jaden's rookie deal for the first year, well, that's stupid. You've now mortgaged a year for a year, and I'd rather be really good in his 4th year when he's got all that experience than right now. But if you can make a move that works now and later, I think you have to be aggressive. Again, aggressive has its limits. Unless you're getting Myles Garrett in return, I'm not giving up the number 1 pick next year. Or their first round draft pick. Not happening. Unless the player is like a Max Crosby level and I'm getting him for multiple years of control, I'm not giving up my 2nd rounder either. You've got to make it the right pick. But something that is worth considering on the financial side of this gets back to the comment that I skipped over from Jordan Y2P2Y. Again, I don't come up with these. I just read them. The screen names aren't always great because they're not really meant to be read aloud, but I thought this point was really good. I think the most overlooked part about trading for someone is the fact that because of Ron's horrible drafts, we have no one upcoming to pay. Even if we traded for a star with a heavy contract, it's not like we are worried, okay, well, we still have to pay X, Y, Z. We don't have any players coming up where you're going to have to spend money to keep them. And I'm going to be honest, Anthony, I hadn't really thought about that point very much yet. I know I had thought about the fact that they have money to spend because Jaden's on a rookie contract, and instead of paying your quarterback who's going to be playing at a top 10 level, 30, 40, 50, 60, by the time Jaden's on an extension, 70 or 80 million a year, you're paying him 5, 6, whatever he's making. That's an enormous discount. And that creates a ton of room to spend at other positions. But it's like, okay, well, what other positions are you spending at? You're going to have to re-sign Terry sooner rather than later, but you're already paying him a decent chunk, and I don't know how much more he's going to get on his next one. So it's really a continuation with some kind of upgrade. But he's not getting JJ money. If he's making 20 now or whatever he's making, 22 now, maybe he winds up making 25, maybe 30, the IU contract, but I don't even know if he gets that. So that would be thing one. And it's still probably only a 2-year extension, 3-year extension. Whenever that goes down, nothing that's going to take you into when you have to pay Jaden. Obviously, we'll see what they do with John. Duran eventually is either going to need to get paid or not, but he's already making somewhere close to the neighborhood that he's going to make. And once you add the raises in the salary cap, percent-wise, he's not really getting any more. You paid Cosme. Who else on this roster are you going to have to pay big money?
I mean,
before you pay Jaden.
I think we're going to have the pick of the litter. And I think that also just goes back to what AP did in the offseason where he signed a whole bunch of guys to one-year deals. Like,
right. They're going to have to sign a lot of players because they did a lot of one-year stuff.
Yeah.
But they also hope that some of these draft picks are going to continue to develop, and they'll obviously supplement with more, and they're going to have more and more and more rookie contracts. But, like, B-Rob, maybe. I don't know if you're going to pay a running back. Like, what does that look like? They'll need to figure out what they want to do with Eckler long-term or someone like that, but that's not going to be super expensive. Wide receiver-wise, they don't have any young guys that they're going to have to pay anytime soon. Tight ends, same thing. Defensively, there's no, eventually you have to play Quan Martin some money, but, nothing crazy, I don't think.
Phil Mathis?
It's same thing. He's a rotational player. You probably just go draft another dude, all due respect. And if he comes back, it's going to be on a team-friendly deal. And so, all this, you're not just going to go into every year with $60 million in cap space. So it does make, yes, the draft capital is a big deal. But teams typically don't let great players get to free agency because they don't want to lose them for nothing. So in order to acquire a great player, you either probably going to have to give up a draft pick and pay them, or you're going to have to draft them and wait for them to develop into said great player. And so if you find the desire to get a great player now, you have the money. If Cleveland wants to deal for Denzel Ward, would you do a third for Denzel Ward and eat that contract? I feel like I would in a heartbeat. You got an extra third from the Dotson deal anyway.
Yeah, essentially that's.
Is that even Cleveland's third?
It is Cleveland's third.
Hello, Cleveland! I have a deal I'd like to make. I have something of yours that you might like back. Let's never read the comments, boys and girls. You never know where it's going to start, and you never know where it's going to end. When we get back, you'll hear from Kliff Kingsbury and Joe Whitt Jr. in our Pick 6 at 6, biggest storylines of the day from Commandland. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Final 45 as we got Caps hockey coming up tonight. 6:45, your pregame 7 o'clock puck drop here on the Team 980. So let's get right to it, shall we? It is time for not never read the comments. We did that already. It's time for the Pick 6 at 6 o'clock, Hoffman. That's why you named the segment that.
The 6 biggest Commander storylines.
It is time!
Delivered at 6 o'clock sharp. It's the Pick 6 at 6.
We set out to find a leader, someone who could take this franchise to the next level, build an elite team that consistently competes for championships.
All right, we start on the defensive side of the ball on this Thursday, and Joe Whitt Jr., who had plenty to say at the podium today.
Number 1.
And it started off with his opening remarks where he basically told us just how close that Ravens game was, not making an excuse, not saying like, hey, but if they just do better on how many plays, Joe, you think that you win this game? And by the way, I do not disagree with this one bit.
And I hate to keep coming up here and talking about communication.
Start that because the plays numbers at the beginning.
Allow 4 plays and I hate to keep coming up here and talking about communication because we've been good the last couple weeks, but 4 plays cost us the game, and I'm not even worried about the third down penalties that extended drives. They didn't need any help, but that's football, okay? Sometimes you're going to get football plays and you're going to get a penalty here and there. They're going to get their plays in the run game, but we can't give them anything. And if we don't give up those 4 individual plays, we win that game. And so that's that, and I'll take responsibility for that because they shouldn't make those mistakes.
And that is, I think, very telling because I think Joe Whitt understands how important every play is, and he looks to himself to go, okay, if this happened multiple times, we have multiple miscommunications, we have multiple issues along this front, like, if it happens once, it's on the player. Like, hey, why didn't you get it, bro? But if it happens multiple times, well, that's something systemic. That's something that is a reflection of the coach. And so what do you do to then get those communications squared away? And why are they happening so much in the first place?
It's a little bit of both. Communication is sent, received, and acknowledged. So there was 2 cases. The communication was correct. That was sent. All right. It wasn't received by the person that needed to get it. And, bad things happen. One time, this communication that was sent was wrong. And the guy, he received it. And he played what was told to him. And we let a free runner go. And so either case, I got to do a better job of making sure that it's sent properly, it's received, and it's acknowledged, and we play it the right way. It's unacceptable.
And I think that's really telling. Like, hey, I wonder if that's like I singled that we were going to pass it off, or signaled that we were going to pass it off, and whatever their hand signal, whatever, head, shoulders, knees, and toes, that gets passed along, and then actually the guy meant to say that we're staying with our guy. You called switch, you didn't switch. Then you both wind up on the same dude. So whatever it is, like, they got to be super crystal clear on what they want to do. Joe ultimately is correct that is his responsibility to ensure that everybody's got it. Not that they say they got it, but that they've proven that they got it. And they really made a lot of strides on that from the Tampa game forward until Baltimore put him in a blender a little bit. So can he then make the corrections again? It's definitely easier against a Carolina team that, is just not as talented. They don't put the pressure on you in the way that Baltimore does. But Carolina's a really good offensive line. They spent a lot of money on it, and guys are going to have to cover. And Andy Dalton can punish you if you make mistakes. So it is a good enough test, I think, this weekend, as long as Jaden and company don't just go absolutely ham on this Panthers defense, and the game is, Carolina's chasing the game from the second quarter on. This is a much easier test than Baltimore, but a test that is still a test for Joe Whitt this weekend, so I'm excited to see what they do.
Number 2.
Now, with that said, there is also the reality that they have a personnel issue. They have got to figure out how they replace John Allen, and that actually in some ways starts with Frankie Louvu, who Joe Whitt Jr. was asked about today, and the versatility and how perhaps he can be a bigger part, again, as he was when things were rolling, of this pass rush now that Allen is not available to provide it.
First, Frankie plays the play style that we aim to want to play, and so and I don't want to get into comparing players, but the way that we utilize Micah in Dallas is the way that we utilize Frankie here. We play him off the ball. We play him. You've seen him at the end. You've seen him at a 3 technique. You've seen him zeroed up over the center. So very, very similar to those things that we did with Micah. We blitz him when he's off the ball. He's a dynamic player. We try to get him on the back as much as possible. We try to get him on the lineman that we think he can beat as much as possible. So he's a stud that we tried to feed, and we have to keep doing that.
They just want to get the matchups where they want them, and it's as simple as that. Let's get in obvious pass rush situations. Let's line it up so that we can get Louvu one-on-one. Let's pick the guy that he's going to be one-on-one against, and let's let that guy eat. And they were able to do that really successfully against everyone previous to Baltimore since the Tampa game, in part because they were actually able to get teams into third and long situations. And they actually got Baltimore in a couple, but Lamar was able to find some stuff. Obviously, 2 penalties, 1 on 3rd and 5, 1 on 3rd and 10 on BSJ that we've talked about ad nauseum this week that I don't agree with the calls. But it starts there, right? It starts getting in those situations in the first place. And that is actually something through the struggles this defense has had that they've been good at when they have been good. And even, frankly, sometimes when they haven't. They just then give up the 3rd and long. But they lead or are top 5 in the league in run stuffs. And they've gotten a couple of sacks here and there. And so can you get those plays where you get a team like Carolina behind the chains, now all of a sudden they have to drop back, they can't run the football, and then a guy like Louvu can eat. That's the game plan this weekend. We'll see more in a second, or you'll hear more from Whitt in a second specific to Carolina. But the other thing from the Baltimore game is, while Daron Payne graded out okay, PFF grade, etc., he had some pressures and things like that, he didn't record an actual production stat. No sacks, no tackles, no batted balls, nothing. Hey, Joe, what'd you think about that?
Sometimes that's going to happen. I'm not going to just dive into stats. Totally. He's given us what we want for the run game. All right, they ran for yards. It wasn't because of him. All right, it was some other issues that they ran for. So. He's one of our leaders, and he's doing the things that he needs to do.
I think that is mostly true, and small, hey, let me protect one of my guys who I think is trying hard and didn't play as well as we wanted. There's no doubt they want Daron Payne making plays in the backfield. Production matters. But at the defensive tackle position in this defense, sometimes the production is going to show up in other places, a.k.a. the linebackers tackle tally. Because Daron did a good job of eating a double team or whatever, squeezing a gap. And, it shows up in the results of the play. But I think, obviously, now, especially that John is gone, they're going to try to feature Daron a little bit more and let him go be aggressive and make some of these plays because they're going to need him to do that. But also, they're going to need him to eat some double teams so that Johnny Newton can do that stuff because Newton's not as big as Allen and can't eat the double teams as well. So there is going to be a balance here of getting Big Phil out there, getting Sheldon Day out there, and letting Daron do some of this stuff, while also at times Daron being a bit of a decoy so that Johnny Newton can freelance a little bit and try to go make some plays. All right, last but not least from Joe Whitt.
Number 3.
Let's get some thoughts on the Carolina Panthers. And one thing that really stands out when you watch Carolina on tape is Andy Dalton is a functional NFL quarterback. The ball velocity is not great. He's not going to just wow you with a bunch of stuff. He's going to throw some picks. But guys are open. He knows where the ball is supposed to go. He'll get it there. And even when guys aren't open, throw him with some anticipation. He's a vet who knows how to play the game. So what has Joe Whitt seen since the Red Rocket took over for Bryce Young?
Well, he's seen a lot, but, we're going to try to force the issue some. And so, we'll see. He's a veteran guy. He's seen a lot. So we'll see. I can't really answer that one until the game happens. I have a lot of respect for him, though. I'll tell you that.
Hard not to watch him and have that respect. What about Carolina's offense really, stands out to Joe Whitt?
Oh, well, the first thing, what's his name, Jackson? the young man, number 5, he is Johnson. So I hadn't seen him, and so everybody had been talking about how good he is, and I hadn't seen him. And then I put the film on, and I was like, oh my goodness, this kid can separate. This kid can play. He's been at Pittsburgh. I hadn't been around him, so he's dynamic. He's a dynamic young player that I enjoyed just watching. So the running back runs hard. He's really good. He reminds me of the guy from Arizona. Runs downhill. He's a puncture runner, sets the edge, and then he tries to get back down. They have 2 really good guards that can block and move people. So a quarterback that plays on schedule as much as possible. That's been in this league a long time. Been against him a couple times, and he knows where to go with the ball. He knows how to get the run checks along with the pass checks. He's very smart. So they're an offense that has weapons, and we have to make sure that we control them.
I have no doubt that Joe Whitt wants to force the issue because you can get Dalton to throw you the football. And they also are loose with the football in terms of fumbles. So can you apply pressure? And also, if you can get them kind of mentally frazzled, they'll commit a penalty or 8. False starts, lining up wrong. Like they've done it all. It eventually gets sloppy. But they will put some drives together. Like there's going to be some moments this weekend where you're like, I can't believe the Carolina Panthers are driving on our defense. And then they'll stop. Or Dalton will throw a pick, or they'll get 2, they'll false start themselves out of field goal range. So just know that's going to happen. It's par for the course with the talent level in Carolina. The good news is the other side of the ball is a different story. You'll hear from Kliff Kingsbury on that next. But first, let's get an update on the latest in the world of women's sports, presented by Wawa. Gotta have a Wawa. Let's keep it rolling with our pick six. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And with our pick six today on a Thursday, you got Joe Whitt in the first half, Kliff Kingsbury now as we get you set for, the Commanders and Panthers this weekend. Picking up with the offensive coordinator and something for all the good they've done that wasn't that great on Sunday.
Number 4.
The run game was not very good for the Commanders, and it definitely hurt the defense, by the way. Like, the ability to control the clock, and Kliff talked about this, and I think you'll be able to hear this in one of the bites we're about to play, how they really left their defense out to dry. Not only was, and that, by the way, hurts your pass rush because guys are tired, and that then affects the secondary, and it's this perpetual cycle of football doom. Well, step one in breaking the cycle is getting Brian Robinson back, because he's really good. And Kliff, no qualms in saying it's not as easy as next man up when a guy like B-Rob goes down.
He's a big part of what we do. I mean, both emotionally and physically. The way he plays the game, the joy he plays with, what he brings to practice, that's a big deal for us as a unit. And obviously he's a tremendous player, pass game, run game, pass pro, so it would be a big lift.
So how much of that absence really affected the Ravens' ability to stop the run, or was it the fact that the Ravens are maybe the best team in football at stopping the run?
Yeah, they've been really stout against the run. We would have liked to run it better. There's no doubt. We needed to run it better to win that game and possess the ball more than we did. We had our defense out there a lot because we weren't able to establish the run game. But just a combination of things. I got to call a better game. Brian's a tremendous player, but they're also very good at stopping the run, as you can tell through their first 6 games. But we got to be better establishing that, and that's kind of set up everything else for us throughout the season, and we weren't able to do that last week.
So the good news for Kliff and company is the Carolina run defense is, I don't want to say the antithesis of Baltimore. That'd be a little harsh, but they're definitely on the other end of the standings. So presumably this is something you'll attack, yeah?
I think overall we just want to get back to how we were playing, and that was a more balanced approach, so hopefully B-Rob will bring some of that, and we can just build off the run game like we did the previous 5 weeks.
So there's Kliff Kingsbury on the run game. Now, the other part of them playing like them,
Number 5,
is playing up-tempo, which is harder to do when you're trying to be a little bit more clock cognizant and, we don't quite have the running game going, so are we just going to call this run play quickly and jam it into Nnamdi Madubuike, or the other collection of large men in purple jerseys that you did last week. The tempo, Kliff, how you feeling about that? And how have you been able to utilize it so far this season?
It starts with Jaden. I think he's a guy, as a young guy, pushing the tempo, being able to handle that operation, especially no huddle, and then command that from 10 other grown men. It's like that's not what they're accustomed to. So for him to really buy into it, which he's played at that kind of tempo in college and believes in it, that really set the tone for the entire group. And so the guys have seen some of the big plays we've had off of it and how it can sometimes really simplify a defense by keeping them on their heels. And so that's been a good change up for us, and we'll continue to.
So doing it in college is one thing. Doing it in the NFL is obviously another. When did Kliff know, and how did he know that Jaden would be able to handle it at this level?
Yeah, I didn't know the extent of his work ethic. I knew the stories at LSU, but just to see it in person, I mean, he puts it in each and every day, all day, to be able to be out there and not have to think and be able to command and get it lined up the right way, which isn't easy when we're playing at that pace.
So then the question really becomes, especially since Kliff has used tempo before and teams eventually figure it out, how much more advanced is Jaden now? Because that would seem to be an indicator of what they can actually do moving forward.
I think just overall offensively, we are figuring out, what we can do and who we are. And we've been fortunate to be relatively healthy outside of B-Rob, and that helps, that continuity week in, week out, getting on the same page. But, he's a guy who, whatever you throw on his plate, he's going to study, he's going to work hard at it, and he's allowed us to expand a lot faster than I thought we'd be able to at this point in the season.
So, obviously, I think you're seeing that week over week. Like, even last week, you get no run game, you're down, you got to drop back, and you just start calling stuff and it's working. It's like, oh, well, I didn't know this was an option. And maybe you see some more drop back from them at spaces, maybe a little more pass to set up the run in ways that they haven't done. So the options are there for Kliff Kingsbury. And
number 6.
we know that he's not going to just settle at any point, that the creativity is something that he takes a lot of pride in, and it comes with a purpose. Very, very good at picking spots. And I will say this, for years I covered all kinds of different coaches, whatever, and been doing this for a while now. And one thing that you'd hear occasionally from players is like, yeah, we got these trick plays and we never use them. And so you'd hear that often after a trick play. Like, yeah, we've had it in for 6 weeks. Man, Kliff's running 2 to 3 a week, including last week, the flea flicker screen that he got from where?
Yep, I got to cite my sources always. It's a Jeff Brom play. He did it at Purdue, and obviously we have David Blau, who played for Jeff Brom. So David Blau had brought that one up, and they threw it to a tight end. We ended up sneaking Austin back there, and it ended up working out. The guys executed it perfectly because they brought a pressure, which even made it better. But yeah, shout out Jeff Brom for that one.
And the thing is, so much of that builds off of your base offense. And I think that has been kind of the key. On top of Kliff's willingness to call the stuff and all that, they've executed their base offense at a really high level, which means all this stuff comes set up, right? It's plug and play. It's like, oh, well, we're running a screen release where, we fake a screen and then a guy jets upfield. They've run a couple of those this year. Well, that only works if your screen game's effective. And teams think you're dedicated to it. And they get in the rhythm of, I got to blow up this screen. Well, now the guy that you ran past because you thought he was a blocker is screaming up the sideline wide open. Sweet. Got that one. Hey, the wide receiver screens are hitting to the outside. Now we're going to run one on the inside underneath another screen. That was the play they ran right after the flea flicker screen. A run game, we showed a dedication to it. Okay, well, we can run a flea flicker, and you're going to bite up against the run because you're not late to the run, and you're terrified of it. So you're trying to get there as fast as possible. So all of these things, the different, throwbacks and, unbalanced lines, like it comes, like in some ways it's dessert. You only get it if you eat your dinner. Their dinner, they're eating every single night, all the vegetables, sweet. And then they get to load up on dessert as well, and Kliff is having himself a ball at the old ice cream bar. It's the Hoffman Show. Run the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. When we get back, real things, real people said in real microphones to wrap up the show before we make way for Capitals hockey here on the Team 980. It's Hoffman Show. Wrapping up here on the Team 980. 10 minutes to go before we make way for Capitals hockey here on the station. Of course, Wizards season starts a week from today. We'll be live at Capital One Arena. I also, I guess we can say this out loud now because I got the confirmation earlier today. We'll obviously promote this more next week. But, Anthony, Monday, I believe, talking with Ted Leonsis. There is a new art gallery they're opening at basically around Capital One Arena, somewhere up in the neighborhood. And it's filled with all kinds of cool stuff that Ted's collected and he and his wife have collected over the years. And Ted has agreed to do an interview at the opening here. So I will say this will not be like the most hardcore sit-down interview that I've ever done. I'm not going to sit here and, hey, your art's cool. Let me grill you on everything that I've ever wanted to ask you. But it is me. I'm going to ask questions. So I'm excited to do that. So that'll be on Monday. And then we'll let everybody know when we'll put that on the air. Because obviously Football Monday, probably not going to make the air Monday, but we could probably find a place for it on Tuesday. And then also throughout next week, we have a ton of Wizards interviews that we've been sitting on since Media Day. They're very good. I'm sorry for withholding them from you. But with Wizards opening week next week, we're your home for the Wizards, Team 980, and we're making good on that.
Sounds like a hell of a week next week.
Owner, GM, head coach, star players, star rookies. We got it all.
We got that.
And better than all of that, my interview with Corey Kingsbury. Boom!
Which which was your favorite interview? If you had to tease one.
I think Jordan Poole was my favorite. It was a little loose at the beginning. We were talking about all kinds of stuff from he got some new tattoos to his French lessons. That clip went viral over already. Someone was watching the live stream and that went wild on the internet. And then we got into some like deeper basketball stuff, and he was really thoughtful and really good. So I think Jordan's interview was great. Kyle was funny because I wanted to talk about all the stuff he did in the summer, and he eventually was just like, I want to talk about basketball. And I was like, oh, okay, we can do that. But a bunch of good stuff. Dawkins is always great. Keith's an interesting guy. He gave me a little bit here and there. He's pretty close to the vest, but he pulled a little bit out of him. Interviewed him a couple times now, so it's a familiar face.
A tad bit.
And then Keyshawn George was really good. I thought he was interesting. Alex Sarr was solid too. So like we got look, 7 interviews. They're all pretty good. Some of them are really good. That's not a bad percentage.
Not at all.
But add Leonsis on top, and what a week we're gonna have. So
Yes,
that's next week here on the Team 980. Okay. As for the here and now, Anthony, we need a Thursday Night Football pick. Also, I just realized the date graphic we've been using the entire show is wrong.
Nice.
Anyone who's watching on YouTube, it's not the 16th, it's the 17th. We're just gonna put the Commanders one that we've been using throughout the show back up. Just no, don't need that.
You know why this day is significant?
Because it's Rachel and I's date anniversary.
Really?
Yeah, 4 years ago today, I started dating my wife.
Ooh, where'd you guys go?
Where?
First date. Ooh, that's juicy.
Well, no, it wasn't our first date. It was the day
you
that
asked her to be your girlfriend?
Yeah, the day that we kind of. I mean, like it wasn't like a formal. Maybe it was. Maybe
I'm
it was.
Confused. So
like
this wasn't the first
but
date.
But it's like, yeah, it was the day that we were like, hey, we're officially dating. I don't think
where
she's
you're
listening
like
to that.
exclusively dating, just you two.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that many days before that we had gone on our first date. Our first date technically was October 3rd.
Okay.
So 2 weeks later, we're like, yeah, this is who I want to be with. And turns out that was a forever thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Look at you guys.
What was significant about this date to you? That was not where this question. That was not a setup. What were you gonna say?
It's the day before October 18th.
What's on October 18th?
It's Friday.
I mean, that's good.
That's it.
You like that? Okay.
I'm joking. Today is the start. Well, I guess Howard, Bowie State, and some other schools, they start their homecoming this week.
Oh.
So
how many homecomings are you gonna hit this weekend, Anthony?
None. I'll be working.
Oh. I thought you were going to take it easy this weekend.
I am. I can't wait to sleep and rest, and I just want to be in my crib.
You just said that you're working.
I'll be at prep. Yeah, when I'm at prep, I'm really like it's work, but it's not work. It's a
None of the kids at prep do anything dumb this weekend. Anthony needs to sit in his room and relax.
Yeah, I get to sleep in every weekend. I'm on duty at prep, and I don't have to do too much. I get to watch college football.
Any good games this week? I know last weekend we had a banger of a schedule.
Georgia, Texas. That's at 7:30. Bama plays Tennessee. I think that's the 12 o'clock game. No, they play at 3:30. And then Auburn plays Illinois, I think. It's some good games this week. Last week sucked.
Well, last week had the Oregon-Ohio State.
Yeah,
craziness.
that game was lit.
Yeah, so that's this weekend for Anthony. I'm all over the place this weekend. We're going to see some friends in Annapolis, and might be doing something Saturday morning.
Oh, nice.
Sunday, I think I'm seeing an old friend, and then I got the game, which I really don't want to go to.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather just sit around and watch football and watch the W Finals if there's a Game 5 and like all that kind of stuff. But I feel like I have to.
Mm-hmm. You have fun.
Like if that game was at 1 o'clock, it'd be great.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, I might half pay attention in the first half, and if there's a Game 5 going on,
it might be a blowout in the first quarter, so might be able to look at fourth quarter.
Could be. Yeah. We'll see. Take Command post-game show will be late night, like 8 o'clock ish probably on YouTube on Sunday. So if Logan and I got to do the work, y'all better watch. That's all I'm saying. Speaking of work, it's time for us to pick a game. Tonight, the Saints welcome Sean Payton back to New Orleans. They welcome him with open arms. No Rashid Shaheed, no Chris Olave, Spencer Rattler starting at quarterback. Who you got, Broncos, Saints?
It really might get ugly. I think I want to go with the Broncos. I
am going with the Broncos.
I'm going with the Broncos.
I took the Broncos on Competition Wednesday, although I think they were dogs.
The Broncos?
Yeah, or did I get them -3? I think I got a -3.
Yeah, I think you got a -3.
So they got to win by at least 4 tonight for me to have a good situation there. But I straight up, I'm obviously picking them there as well. Their defense I think is good even without Surtain.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Saints offense is going to be a nightmare. A rookie quarterback with nothing but Alvin Kamara and an offensive line it's not reflective of Kamara. Like that offensive line is banged up. Like their season, I know they started on fire and everyone's like, oh, that didn't last very long. But yeah, their center got hurt and their offensive line completely fell apart.
Yep.
Total poopsie. So yeah, that's that. All right, we're both on the Broncos. Do we have anything in the Real Things folder?
Yep, I put the Alonzo thing in there.
Oh, this is a feel good. Let's get to it, shall we? Real Things time.
Real things.
We're not going to be so this year.
Real people.
5 and 11. Not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All right, this is a good heart warmer here. Lonzo Ball hadn't played in a basketball game in a long time, well over 1,000 days, due to a series of knee injuries that I think a lot of us thought were going to make him retire. Probably many times made him think that he was going to retire, and he finally got back on the court in a preseason game for the Bulls the other night, and they presented him with the game ball after.
Today was going to be a special day regardless of the outcome. Zoe back, man. Yeah. So, you know, it's a blessing to be part of his journey. You know, a lot of us being here through it all, you know, and seeing the highs, the lows. So this was a hell of a night for him. You know, here go the game ball, brothers. So, you know what I'm saying? Just like Kobe said, I respect you more than anything, bro, because that you've been through. We love you, care about you. I'm glad to see you back. Family on 3, man. 1, 2, 3.
That's good stuff from the Bulls. Colby White first, and then
Zach LaVine.
Jeez. So that's awesome, man. I mean, Lonzo's such a special player. Obviously, hasn't lived up to what you thought he might be, and the hype and his dad and the whole deal and the attention. But like, as a passer, what a special, unique player. And the fact that we've been robbed of that because of the injuries is brutal, and obviously more so brutal for him. So great to see Lonzo Ball back in the league. All right, tomorrow, it's Finish Friday, so we'll see you then here on the Hoffman Show. Caps Hockey now.